Hi everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. This is the horror movie podcast here in the Mild Fuzz Podcast Network. Every week we talk about horror films from the past and the present, and this week we're going to talk about Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper. This was made in 1982. Oh, and Tim bought the Blu-ray. I've got that Blu-ray too, Tim. And that's Tim. I might as well get into the introductions in a nice organic
how's it
manner.
going?
You know what, I'm tempted to try and quack, but I can't do it.
No.
I can't do it, I can't quack. Alright, also Joseph's here.
Oh, that was a pretty decent attempt at the killer's voice.
And of course we've got our Irishman, Kevin, is here.
Tim quacks me up.
Kevin brought a bad pun, of course. Of course. Ducks fly together, as they say, in the Mighty Ducks, and D2 the Mighty Ducks, and D3 the Mighty Ducks, and hopefully one day D4 the Mighty Ducks, because I know, what's his face, Joshua Jackson is rooting for a fourth Mighty Ducks movie. But we're not here to talk about Mighty Ducks, we're here to talk about one duck. I guess just generally then, what did everyone think of the movie, just in a sentence? You know, general thoughts.
I thought it was okay. Nothing. There were a few special things about it. Like I thought it was very well shot.
Right. Okay.
But other than that,
Is this
okay?
Is this your first Italian horror film from this sort of era?
Yes.
Right, that's interesting. I wonder if you'll develop more of a taste for it as we see more of them throughout the show, or if you're just not going to be into them in general.
Yeah.
But I think that's worth pointing out. How about you, Tim?
Oh boy. I gotta tell you, some of the movies we have to watch for this thing. Oh boy. But I gotta give it to you, Pete. Sometimes, out of that shit pile that you live in, you pick a beautiful flower. This movie was amazing.
Oh yes.
I fucking loved this.
I knew you were my chance, Tim. I knew if one person here was going to love this, it'd be you.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
Oh, great. All right, Joseph, what were your general feelings then?
Well, this wasn't my first Italian horror, but it was my first Fulci. And I've heard that this is when he started scraping the bottom of the barrel, so I want to see his earlier stuff. I guess I like the Donald Duck parts. After that, there's not much for me to like. It has the slasher charms, but even then, it feels kind of more of a bottom level slasher film. I do like the opening scene is reminiscent of every procedural show you ever see. Somebody walking their dog.
That is true. That is true. But do all those procedural
brings back a body part.
Oh, Joseph Skype's fucking up because he's frozen and he looks really silly right now.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, he's back. Right. Yeah, but do any of those procedural shows open with what I have to say is one of the best zoom-in reaction shots I have ever seen in cinema? Because this old man, like, I can see it's a hand. I can see it's like a dead hand as soon as the dog comes out of the bush. But this old guy, for the next 10 minutes as the dog's running towards him, is like, "Good boy. I'm so proud of you. You're a good dog." Right? And then it's not until the dog stops, he's like, and it just zooms in. It's great. I mean, it's one of the, if you've never seen an Italian horror movie before, you have to learn a couple of things about them. One of the telltale signs of an Italian horror movie of this era, whether we're talking, I mean, I don't know if you count this as a, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this word, but giallo?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you count this as a giallo movie. I tend to think more of Argento when I think of that stuff, but
it kind of, some of the colors kind of remind.
Yeah, there was a little bit like with the women in the sex show, like the back room. When she went in there, it was all green, just randomly.
Yeah.
It was just green for no reason.
I really like that. I thought it was really nice looking.
Don't touch your fucking head because your mic starts going nuts. Literally, the next time he opens his goddamn mouth, he makes all these staticky noises because he's doing what I told him not to.
I'll try not to touch my head. It's I thought it looked really sleazy, and I really liked it. The whole film was just 100% sleaze.
Oh yeah, it really felt sleazy. Now, I wouldn't say that's necessarily something that... I'd say a lot of Italian horror movies of this time period feel like that, but not all of them. But what I will say, one of the sort of telltale signs that you're watching an Italian horror movie, because, I mean, if what I'm about to say wasn't the case, you'd probably just think this was an American movie because it's set in the US. It's it's in New York. It appears to be mostly Americans, although it might not be. But the one thing that gives them all away is that there's always this really awkward dubbing. Some of them have it worse than others. This one is one of the weirder ones because it seems like most of the actors were speaking English. And you can tell they're speaking English, but you can tell that it's not live audio or it's someone else who's dubbed over them.
This is why I asked you before the show, was yours in English? Because I thought I had an English dub version.
No, it's in English. But there's actually other ones where like they had this was like a mainline thing in Italy for some reason in movies for a long time, was they didn't really give a shit about like dialogue sync. So they'd actually make movies, and there's movies I like that have this really annoying thing where the actors on set would actually just speak in whatever language they wanted to. You'd have two actors.
With no name trilogy.
Yeah, you'd have two actors in the same scene. One would be speaking Italian, one would be speaking Spanish, and then in the final movie they'd both be dubbed over in English. Like and then you'd have like the odd actor who was in English, and you could tell they're speaking English, but you can still tell they're dubbed over because it's just kind of awkward sounding.
That sounds smart though. Just let the actors do what they want.
So you'd be okay if someone in 2015 did that? If you went to see a movie next week in the theatre and none of the dubbing was like matching the mouths moving?
I'd be fine with it. That's alright.
I will say that I'm happy that's not a thing anymore, but it does oddly give these old Italian movies a bit of a weird charm because they all have this thing and you just kind of used to it and go with it. But that's the thing. That's a sort of big disclaimer. If you've never watched a movie like this before, that's that, right? So for anyone who's thinking about watching this or whatever, you're gonna have to deal with that, and it's just the way it is.
It was for this film. It wasn't really massively off-putting. I mean,
Yeah.
I was able to tolerate it.
Because there's other ones like Lucio Fulci's own movie, Zombie 2, aka Zombie, aka Zombie Flesh Eaters. That one in particular, on the Blu-ray, you've got a choice of English or Italian audio. But they're both horribly dubbed, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick. You might as well just go with the English because the Italian's just as badly out of sync as the English is. So, you might as well just go for the English. Cool. But so this movie in particular, let's talk about. Really, what we're talking about here is the kills and the sleaziness because that's really the two main facets this movie's got going for it. And I think I really like a lot of the kills in this. Some of them are more basic than other, but I think the things that really stick out in your mind, I think the first one that everyone remembers with this film is the razor blade through the nipple.
Yeah. That was a bit hard to stomach.
How many of you like grasped your own tits basically when that scene happened?
More than usual.
Because it's one of those things where like if someone gets like stabbed in the eye or genitals gets cut, you tend to sort of just you sort of react.
You want to protect your...
Yeah, you go to protect your own goods. And I kind of felt the same way with this. When I seen her nipple get sliced in half with the razor blade, I'm just like, oh Jesus.
I have a problem with soft tissue being sliced.
Oh, right, okay.
Like in Chien Andalou, the guy, the very start where he sort of slices. I can't deal with it.
What the fuck did you just reference?
Is that like a deli shop at your
Shane
neighborhood or
Andalou?
something?
What are these words? Shane Andalou?
Shia LaBeouf? What'd you say?
Luis Buñuel's 1929 film, I think it is. Where
Alright, okay. I assumed it was a weird Irish thing, but fair enough. Right?
No.
Okay, I've not heard of that one. Okay, razor blade through a nipple, quality stuff.
And then the thing too, with the kill and the gores, which I think is another thing that's kind of reminiscent of Italian horror, is they get right up in there, they don't shy away or kind of cut back. They'll show you close up the blade going in and then going up and down. And the weird thing about it is it's shot in this really weird style where I can't remember if this is just Fulci, but it's kind of it's almost like shooting it kind of like how Hitchcock would shoot a stabbing scene, but all the shots of the actual penetration are put in, kind of thing. Because there's a lot of quick cuts, but all the violence is still in there. It's kind of this weird mix of
styles, which is interesting. I like it. It makes a sort of very visceral, like haphazard. Like how would you feel in this moment if someone just ran up to you and stabbed you? You'd be like all like confused and disorientated and in pain, and that kind of quick cutting, but with the violence still in there, kind of recreates that. Like just the flashes of red and another kill that I enjoy. This makes me sound like a sick bastard, but the broken wine bottle to the vagina is very brutal.
Yes, that's what I was waiting for.
Well, do say, Joseph, what do you like about that?
Oh no, that was a violent moment, and as you see, that's probably one of the most gory moments in the movie. Because as her body falls, just that entire lower half of her body is just blood. All it is.
Yeah.
And that's something that's where I start imagining, how is that going to feel, going a broken bottle going through there and going up as far as you can get it.
Yep, that's
not good, probably.
Not good, probably.
I can imagine.
Yeah, well, I
At
mean,
that point, I like covered my vagina. I was like, oh shit.
Well, it's kind of it sort of touches on the themes of the movie, because obviously one of the big themes of this movie is sexuality and repressed sexuality. We've got the wife character of the Doctor who's like going to sex shows and recording things and basically masturbating in public. But we've also got the expert guy that the cop goes to talk to. Like there's a random scene with him buying a gay porno magazine, and it's basically just a scene to show you that he's also got sexual repression in some way, and like all of it's just about that, which is really interesting. I do also I like some of the basic stuff with the other kills. Just switchblade in the car. Like I like how it built up to her dying. Although I do have to laugh at how absurdly sexist the guy in the car was. Like before she goes onto the ferry, he's like, "Oh, women should stay in the kitchen. You're a menace to society out here." Like, what the fuck? Does this guy just not want women to be outside of the house, like at all? Like you go down the street and it's just all men, like every day, like.
Oh man, can you imagine?
I know. I mean, that's just boring.
Maybe he's the one with sexual repressions.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So we've got all that stuff. But, I mean, there is a lot of nudity in this movie. This is definitely not one for the kids. The sex show in particular is basically just two people having sex on a stage in front of people. There's full frontal female nudity. There's not full frontal male nudity, but there's like basically a side view male nudity. You might as well be full frontal. There's a couple of points in this. So it's very erotic.
Just
in
show
that
a
sense.
cock,
Just show a cock.
Yeah.
Don't dance around the cock. Just show the cock.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's just one of the things that the film keeps coming back to, because at the end, like the cop tries to explain to the girlfriend of the killer, like, oh, he's upset because his daughter, who, is dying, basically will never get to experience the freedom of sex, so he's killing all these sexualized women because.
Makes perfect sense.
It's weird. Like, would you ever imagine a father saying, "Oh, my daughter will never grow up to get fucked"? That upsets me. Like traditionally, fathers are quite uneasy about the idea of their daughters having sex. I mean, I
want to put bars in the window. You want to keep her from the world.
It's like my daughter will never.
Dad.
My daughter will never get DP'd in the back room of a sleazy bar. My God, I must kill people for this.
We'll never attend a sex show. Gotta kill those performers.
I know. It's so weird. But I actually, I'm with Tim in this one. I really like this movie. I love how grimy and sleazy it is, and it really feels like sort of the underground of New York City in like the early 80s.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really, really loved about it, which I think we might have mentioned this on when we talked about God Told Me To, but this is one of my favorite time periods is 70s, 80s New York, which is so different from New York now. Like New York is it seems like such a fun, nice kind of family.
Giuliani cleaning it up.
Yeah, but I love going back to these movies where it was just a grimy piece of shit where anywhere you go, either some gang or like killer or something is just gonna like come out and like kill you. Like I really 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 love the setting in this.
Yeah, no, it's good. There's a lot of like there's scenes in the subway. There's 70s New York subway is a big part of
Yeah.
that sort of setting.
It's like
They
like
should
you
just
said,
make
you just
movies
like
in
feel
Detroit now.
grimy and
Yeah.
yeah.
And it felt very authentic as well. I mean, like this would have been low budget, but I mean, there's shots on like the Staten Island ferry where it like you see like the skyline in the background as she's on the ferry, and I'm like, they actually went on a ferry and shot this. This is actually, fairly on location shooting here. This is quite impressive. So
And just to go back again to the killer, like it sounds like so silly and stuff, but like just the fact that the killer is speaking in this high pitched voice and quacking, like the first time you hear him talk, I actually stopped and rewound it because I was like, what the fuck is that? And like, I don't know, I just that's awesome. Like that's something I've never seen before. Like the idea of like the stoic, serious, quiet killer. I feel like is something that we've seen a million times, but I honestly I can't like think of any time I've seen like a killer that talks like this and like it's like it's quacking and stuff. Like it's so bizarre and weird. I loved it.
it makes him feel like a complete raving maniac, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like it almost seems like so dangerous, like more dangerous than if he was just like, if he was just calling the cop up and being like, "I'm gonna kill again." It's like, oh, it's a creepy guy, whatever.
I'm gonna kill her, and you can't save her.
Yeah, yeah. He's calling a prostitute.
Actually, I want to just point out a scene earlier on in the movie when the killer first calls the detective. He's not at home. He's at a prostitute's house, right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm showing my inexperience here with hookers, but is there prostitutes who typically like let you stay over and sleep at their house after paying for
Unless
sex?
it's at hotels.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
because I actually did think that she was his like wife or whatever, just because she's in bed and she's going to get some food, and
Yeah.
it just seems so It wasn't until she mentioned, "I'm a prostitute, not your wife. Make your own coffee." I'm like, what?
Yeah,
She
you're
broke
going
the
to
number one
prostitute's
rule of
house.
cooking.
Also, if it's the prostitute's house, how did the killer get the number?
Well, that's actually a plot point. He brings that up, but we never really find out.
He goes, "Have you told anybody that I've come here?" No.
Oh yeah.
I may talk, but I don't give away personal information.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in front of your cock to like several people, and I told them about that weird thing you do when you cry after you ejaculate. But I never mention your name. Never mention your name. I swear.
God, it's like me.
Okay.
Joking. I'm joking. Joking.
Kevin's taking that joke too far. All right. Nah, it's all pretty extensive. Okay, so Joseph. Well, what other thoughts do you have on the film? Then I'm curious because you seem to have liked it the least. I think. Out of everything.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it because I enjoy bad slasher films. I always am up for a bad slasher film. I just think there's nothing really there for me after the kills, the Donald Duck impression, and then I do like the New York City setting like Tim does, but after that, there's not really much more there for me. That's why I say I rank it lower than most slashers, but hey, I'm always up for a bad slasher film, so I still enjoyed it.
Oh, that's good. I think I like how unrelenting it is. It doesn't try to give us a protagonist who's like constantly on the run. Because so many slasher movies, it feels like
Yeah, they're always running from the killer.
yeah, like either everyone is together and they die one by one, and we've got a final girl, or there's someone at like Sydney and Scream where they're being taunted throughout the entire movie. Whereas the detective gets taunted a bit, but and I suppose he is the protagonist because he's the closest thing we have to that. But I kind of what I like about this movie is that it kind of just jumps from kill to kill. It's like it focuses on each of the murders rather than trying to like create more of a standard movie plot.
More like just a serial killer movie instead of just a slasher. But
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Dude, like how tense was the scene where the woman was tied to the bed and then she hears on the radio
oh, yeah.
to beware of a man with 3 fingers, and then she looks over and the guy has 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Like,
That
that
was a good scene. I like that scene.
yeah.
I actually quite like the I didn't think of this before, but I just thought of it there now. I actually quite liked the sort of the style it was going for because it was sort of a mixture of slasher mixed with 70s crime procedural, and I really quite like that
A little bit, yeah.
because I think the detective was quite an interesting character.
Was this 70s or 80s?
It's 1982.
82.
Oh.
So it's like
Yeah, I imagine it was probably shot at the latest 81. So,
still around the turn of the 70s and 80s
Yeah.
when there wasn't too much of a difference.
yeah. What is it, Tim? You're just smelling away at yourself.
Oh no, I'm just looking at the back of the Blu-ray. It says New York City. It's a nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to die there.
Where would
guess
you
it's
like
true.
to die then?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
It
know.
also says on the box the most controversial horror film ever made, which I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot
that.
of them say that.
No,
I mean,
I
that this I do. I'm pretty sure this was on the video nasties list. I think. And if you don't know what that is, I assume everyone here knows what that is. That list.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what that is?
Oh,
Oh, I'm surprised. Being a horror guy, Tim, I'm surprised you don't know this.
it's a list for nasty people.
Basically, in the early 80s, when like the VHS boom started, so a lot of movies were coming out in VHS, like rather than go to the cinema, and it was a lot of these horror movies: Evil Dead, Driller Killer, New York Ripper, Nightmares on a Damaged Brain. Lots of them. I think there was like 90 movies to 100 movies on it, but it was basically Margaret Thatcher, the bitch, and the government in the UK decided to ban like basically like 100 movies or whatever it was.
Oh,
And because of that, it made them a lot more famous than they actually were, because people were trying to get them on the black market. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I need to see like the uncut Evil Dead, I need to see the uncut this, I need to see the uncut that.
Oh.
The funny thing is that most of them now are uncut in the UK. Like they've been reclassified. The rating system's a lot more. It's actually more lenient in the US now in the UK. We all basically just sort of realised, yeah, we're being a bit silly here. Just because someone watches someone get killed in a movie doesn't mean they're going to go and do it. It's.
yeah.
I mean,
Imagine
now.
Peter with a long trench coat with VHSs.
What are you buying, stranger? Ha ha ha! Thank you. Tim appreciated that reference.
That was a good one.
But nah, I mean, like, so that made them a whole lot more famous than they were, and people wanted to see them. Now, obviously, there's some good ones. I like this one. Evil Dead's obviously a good movie, but like a lot of them aren't actually that good. Like a lot of them are just shitty horror movies that no one really should have cared about, but they became famous, and everyone like died to seeing them because they were on this list. But yeah, they're pretty much all uncut now in the UK. The only stuff that gets censored in the UK now, in recent memory, the only ones I can remember off the top of my head is a Serbian film and the second Human Centipede. But having seen a Human Centipede 2 uncut, I understand why they cut it. Like, because it's so ridiculously extreme. Like, they're just trying to like shock you. So I get it. This though, nah. This for an adult audience. For if you're 18 or in the US, I guess it's 17. Then whatever.
Yeah.
Have at it.
Have at it, yeah. Yes, Kevin, I believe you had something to say.
We're just
Oh,
waiting
no.
on you.
No, I'm fine.
Oh, you're fine. All right. Okay.
Kevin's a nasty man.
He's a nasty duck, is what he is.
Rah, rah, rah.
All right. Does anyone have anything else they would like to add? Kevin, stop touching your fucking head. You did it just then, and it made the noise.
I can't help it.
Yes, you can. If you have to tie your hands to the goddamn bed like the women in the movie, then you're going to do it.
Can you blame him though? Look at that head. Wouldn't you want to touch that if that was yours?
Perfect head of hair.
All right. Does anyone have anything they want to add before we get to ratings?
I love a good scene of someone pulling glass out of their feet.
Oh, all right. Okay. That was fun.
Okay.
There was a really weird scene in it where where the wife goes to like a sleazy cafe or something, and Julio with the
Oh.
fruits.
Yeah.
Say
That
you
was
like
really
it. Say you like it. Went on for like 5 minutes. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be that long.
He
Yeah.
finally admits to liking it, and they're just embarrassing her.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name was, but like his friends like, oh, this guy's got silver toes or something like that is the line. Yeah, that probably went on a bit longer than it needed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the point of the scene, but I mean, it did go on a bit long. But no, I mean, I like Lucio Fulci. I mean, for you guys who haven't seen a Lucio Fulci movie before, are you interested in seeing more of his work now that you've seen this?
Yeah.
Especially because I keep hearing this is when he started scraping the bottom of the barrel, and this is the
I disagree with that. I really this is probably my second favorite of his that I've seen. But
I mean, I've seen a few of his other movies. I know I've seen Zombie.
that's the one I'm most excited to see. That's
Yeah.
the one I have not
yeah,
yet.
he's also
Not
done.
sure.
I think House by the Cemetery was him. Possibly
I want to see that.
City of the Living Dead was maybe him. I've got that
Yeah.
one. But we'll definitely do more of his in the future and more other Italian stuff. But let's get
Yeah,
to
do
ratings.
some Argento. That's
Yeah, we'll
that's
do some
my bread and
Argento.
butter.
Don't torture a duckling. That seems like another movie boy would hate.
All right. Okay. So that's Kevin.
Out of 10? Wait, what are we
No,
rating?
no. I was
Headset.
I was criticizing you because your headset was making noises again.
Oh, right.
Is there an update on your new mic? Are you...
Once I amass the money, yeah, I should be either not, if not this week, next week. If not next week, the next week after.
Cool.
It'll be
Alright.
coming.
All right, well, we'll start with you anyway then, since we're on you now. How many killer ducks out of 10?
Oh, I'll give it a. I'll be generous. I wanted to give it like a 5.5 killers ducks, but I'll be generous and give it a 6 because much like Joseph, other than the kills and how it was shot, I did like how it was shot. I thought it was well shot. I just didn't find, and the interesting killer, I guess. I just didn't find much to like about it. I thought it was just okay.
You just listed like 3 or 4 things.
Well, yeah, but other than those things, I didn't.
All right, okay.
And those don't warrant enough for me to rate it a 7 or an 8. So
All right, Joseph, how many?
Jesus, sorry, it's not a goddamn masterpiece.
Joseph, how
Christ.
many killer ducks out of 10?
This may not be a masterpiece, but the haunting damn well is, Tim. I'm gonna give this 6.5 killer ducks out of 10.
Cool. Tim.
Again, I really did like it. It's not like my top 5 favorite horror movies or anything, but very, very good, very solid, fun movie. I'll give it a very nice 8.5.
Very good, very good.
still
Joseph,
higher than the haunting.
that's
Oh, I know that tongue.
That's 3 whole points higher than the haunting from Tim. I'm actually going to match Tim's score here, 8.5 from me as well. I really like this one. Grimy, sleazy. It's actually a lot of the reasons why I like this one is a lot of the reasons why I like the original Maniac, which we will do at some point on this show. But also set in New York, Tim, so look forward to that when we do that.
I like the original Maniac.
Yeah, so
I've only seen the remake, but
which is
I
also
think
good.
just-
That's actually one of those
Yeah.
rare examples where both the original and the remake are both excellent, I think. But we'll talk about that another time. We'll probably do both of those at the same time, actually, just for comparison's sake. But yeah, so that's the New York Ripper. That's the first. I think that's the first Italian horror movie we've done. Certainly the first Lucio Fulci movie we've done. So thanks very much for watching or listening to our thoughts on that. We will be back next week, and I can tell you what we're doing next week because the supposed final movie in the series is coming out at the end of the month, end of October that being. So for next week, we are going to watch the first 3 Paranormal Activity movies and talk about all 3 of those next week. So it's probably going to be a longer episode next week as we delve into all 3 of those. And then naturally we'll be doing 4 and 5 the following week. So, or 4 in the marked ones. I do apologise. 4 and 5. Let's not get technical here, people. Alright, so that's next week. But before we just wrap up here, I will get everyone to tell me where they can be found on the interwebs. Kevin, where can people find you on the internet should they want to hear more about you crying after you ejaculate?
Well, you can speak to me about that, but if you want to, if you want to find me on the internet, you can find me at Letterboxd and Letterboxd
Twitter.
and Twitter at
There you go.
MomoGuy13. I know I was missing something.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right, Joseph, where can people find you?
I am always found at Letterboxd at jm_Kohler and on Twitter at jkohler_93. And then I'm also in the Mild Fuzz Facebook group. Always there for Overlord Peter. Always
Oh,
there.
yeah. For Overlord me. Alright, Tim, where can people find your lovely
Kevin,
face?
stop.
Yes.
All right, for me, social media at Tim Vargulish, Hellraisers, the Hellblazer podcast, facebook.com/GoatmanComics.
Oh, nice and succinct. I like it, Tim. You can find me on Twitter and other social media, including Letterboxd, at Wibble89. You can also find me on other shows here in the Mail Fuzz Podcast Network, such as the Movies Podcast, 1.21 Gigawatts, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Podcast, in which we review every episode of Buffy and Angel in viewing order. Come in and join in on that. That's fun. We're about 2/3 through season 1 now. That's a fun ride. But yeah, guys.
And Twitch.
On Twitch. Oh yeah, I'll mention Twitch, since we do play a lot of horror games on there. In fact, me and Tim finished the original Silent Hill just last week, and this week we're going to start playing through Fatal Frame. So you can get that on my Twitch channel, which is Peter Bradley 89, or you can check it out on the 1080 Plays YouTube channel if you don't catch it live. But yeah, I think that'll conclude the plugs. I will just say that you can find Mailed Fuzz on Twitter at mailed_fuzz. You can also email Mailed Fuzz at mailedfuzz@gmail.com, and you can an email is there if you want to suggest movies for us to review. If you want to ask us questions, we'll be happy to check all that stuff out. That'd be cool. Well, assuming they're actually horror movies. If you suggest like the new Turtles movie, as funny as it is, because that is horrific, we're not going to do it on the show. But thanks very much, guys. Keep watching scary movies, and next time we'll be back, it'll be October, which is Halloween month. So I think for a bit of fun on the show for the month of October, what we're going to do at the end of each show is we're going to update everyone on how many horror movies we've been watching throughout the month.
Oh, shit!
And we'll see who's watched the most horror films by the end of the month.
It's going to be me!
We'll see. We'll see.
You're
Tim.
going down,
We'll
you're
see.
going down, you're going down.
We'll
Can
see.
we also dress up for our for the podcast?
For the Halloween episode, sure.
Yeah.
If you want to dress, I'm not dressing up, but if you want to dress up, you can.
I could put on a mask, make it even harder to hear me.
Alright guys, so that's going to be our October-thon over the month of October, but thanks very much for watching or listening. Do like us, rate us, subscribe, and all that usual jazz that helps us out a lot. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next week.